AITAH after going no contact with my in-laws after being verbally attacked by my SIL when we announced we're expecting our second baby? Edit. I apologize for not putting this in paragraph form. I was just upset and trying to get as much detail as I could without making it longer than it was already going to be. I have adjusted that and added more info at the end that hopefully answers many questions have been asked. Warning, this is a bit long. My husband and I met 6 years ago. We started out as just friends and came to realize we loved each other so much. I come from a really big family who has always been loving, open-minded, and supportive. I live in the US and they are all in Ireland, but we are still close. I told my family about my husband and they were very accepting. My husband's family is from Colombia and are really great people. They are really close and loving as well. However, his parents and sister are not very accepting or open-minded about many things. He has 2 older brothers that are, and he has a closer bond with them. He's told me since we met that his sister is very judgmental. When he told his sister about us, she had a problem with me, even without knowing me. And her husband made negative comments about me being Irish. Her husband is white, so their issue wasn't about wanting to keep the family only Colombian. Either way, my husband informed them that it's his life and his choice. Time passed and it seemed that after getting to know me they had come to accept me. I was being included in every event, including an out-of-town family reunion. When we decided to get married, everyone was happy from both families, except my husband's sister. She is the only one who had an issue with it. Again, my husband had to remind her that it's his life. A year later we became pregnant with our first child. We announced the news to my family and they were ecstatic. We announced it to my husband's parents and they were equally ecstatic. The following week we announced it to his sister and her husband. Her husband immediately lit up and congratulated us, but she just kind of went quiet and then turned to her mother and started an off-topic conversation. I was thrown back by her reaction and my husband was completely hurt, but we said nothing and just finished the night as if it never happened. We're both pretty high on keeping the peace. A week later my husband told his sister that she really hurt him with her reaction and they had a long talk. Afterwards she was completely supportive during my pregnancy. She checked on me constantly and even paid to throw a beautiful baby shower at the clubhouse in our neighborhood. I went into preterm labor and had to spend 2 weeks in hospital before ending in a cesarean. It was very hard, but she was there through that as well and came to refill our fridge when we got home so we wouldn't have to leave. She has been an amazing aunt for nearly 2 years. Just before our son's 2nd birthday we found out we are pregnant with our 2nd baby. We were surprised, since this time it wasn't planned, but still excited. We told my family, and as usual they were extremely happy for us. However, my husband was hesitant to tell not only his sister this time, but also his parents. I was so confused, but he said that he knows they would all have a problem and he wanted to wait until his brother came to tell them. I thought he was just overreacting. When his brother arrived we went on a walk and my husband told him the news. He was happy for us. When we got back to his parents' house my husband told them he had news, but only his mother actually paid attention when he pulled out the ultrasound pics. She immediately turned the pics face down and started speaking to my husband quietly in what seemed like a worried voice. I couldn't hear her and asked my husband what was going on. Then his father and sister came over. By this time I was frustrated and I told them myself while my husband pulled out the pics again. Immediately his father started speaking in a very angry tone in Spanish only and his sister took off upstairs. I was so upset by their reactions that I couldn't concentrate on translation, but I could tell by the back and forth of angry voices that it was nothing good. I got fed up and started collecting me and our son's belongings to leave. My son had followed my SIL upstairs so I went to get him. When I got up there she was commenting about us leaving and I said yes, we're leaving. I'm very tired of every time we have happy news to share with this family it's almost always met with a negative reaction. It's the first time I've ever spoken up to anyone in his family, by the way. She responded by screaming as loud as possible, "This is nothing to be happy about, you ruined my brother's life." At this point I was looking at my son, who I was holding while walking towards the stairs, and he started tearing up and about to cry. He had never been around anyone screaming or even arguing before and he was clearly terrified. I didn't respond to my SIL, instead I just went as quickly as possible to get out of there and in my car. She followed me all the way to the door, still screaming. I had tuned out most of what she was saying but I could hear her calling me a BCH numerous times. Also, her own son and her brother's 2 children was there watching this all happen as well and they all looked equally upset. My husband was outside at my car with his brother, so he had no idea this was happening. But his parents did, and they didn't stop her or say anything. After I buckled my son in the car seat, I realized I had left my keys inside. When I went back in to grab my keys, she started screaming again. I was so stressed at that point I couldn't even think straight to find my keys, so I decided it would be best to just send my husband in to look for them. As I was walking out, she followed me, causing a scene outside, now screaming, "You're bringing another child in this world to suffer." I turned around in shock and responded, "You literally leave your son regularly with your parents to go on holidays and to parties. Maybe spend more time worrying about how he suffers." Then proceeded to my car. I hadn't even noticed her coming after me or my husband jumping in her face until I sat in the car and looked over. He was yelling back at her, "Saint Fu, and go inside." After all the horrible things she had been saying to me, she had the nerve to tell him, "How dare you tell me to shut up?" He repeated himself, and this time she did in fact shut up and go back inside. The next day I sent her a long text telling her how much it hurt me that she acted that way, and even more that she did it in front of all the kids. I advised her that I no longer feel safe around her and would not be allowing this type of person in me or my children's lives. I also made it clear that I do not speak for my husband and I don't come in between family, so whatever his choice is, I will accept and respect it. She responded apologizing, but immediately started blaming my husband for her behavior and anger. Neither my husband or I have any idea why, but I don't even care. To me, an apology is taking full accountability for your actions without excuses or blame shifting. A few days later, her husband, who was not there when this happened, sent me a text asking if we could all four meet and talk, or just him and I, if I didn't feel comfortable being around her yet. I told him I would need time to consider it. He responded by telling me whenever I'm ready to let him know, and that my SIL is really upset, and then he repeated her words of blaming my husband for her anger. Part of me wants to resolve this for my husband and children, as well as curiosity on how they can possibly twist it to be my husband's fault. But a bigger part says I should just stay away from all of them because it's just become way too toxic. Additional details. 1. Neither my family nor my husband's family has any hereditary diseases. Our first son was born healthy without any issues, and all the tests and ultrasounds have verified that our unborn son is equally healthy. 2. My husband was only in one relationship before we met. She treated him badly and cheated. He has no previous children with her or anyone else. He was very hurt and stayed single for 2 years in between their breakup and us meeting. 3. I was born and raised in Ireland on a family farm where we only spoke Irish. My family only spoke English when we would go in the city or have visitors that speak English. I did not learn English until later. When I get upset, I can't think or speak as quickly in English. I do speak Spanish. I learned from our visits to Spain. Colombian dialect is very similar. However, that doesn't help when you're so upset you can't focus. I assume it's the same when you learn Spanish first. My husband's father speaks English, but not proficiently, and his mum barely at all. So I don't believe they switched to speaking Spanish to hide their words. I believe they assumed I understood everything as usual. 4. Why my husband was hesitant to tell them about our pregnancy. Everyone in their family knows that my MIL does not like either of my Bill's wives or my SIL's husband. She's nice to them, but gossips behind their back. Maybe that's what she's been doing to me the entire time and has had both my husband and I fooled. Both of my Bills have 2 children each. And apparently my MIL was not happy any of the times they announced a new baby. My SIL does have a fertility issue, and her husband has some sort of genetic trait that can be passed down. His aunt passed last year from it, and his mother is not far behind. Because of this, they did IVF to out the issue. It took 3 or 4 tries. I'm not certain on the details. This was before I met my husband, and it seems rude to ask such private information. My Bill rarely attends any family events because he does not get along with my MIL and Phil much. I thought our MIL-me relationship was different because I am more traditional like her. I do work, but it's from home. I do majority of the housework and cooking. I only nurse, no formula. I do not buy baby food from the market. I make it fresh daily. And I am almost always available when they need me. Our son does not attend daycare. He is always with me or my husband. And we have only asked his parents to watch him a few times for a few hours in his 2 years of life. It's my SIL that leaves her son with them regularly, not us. We enjoy spending as much time as possible with our son, because you only get this time in their life once. Even when we go on holiday, we take him with us. We prefer not to go places where he cannot join us. I am also the one who encourages my husband to spend more time with all of them and keep in regular communication. When we met, he was close with his brothers, but barely spoke to his sister or parents. Even until this happened, they would contact me if he wasn't responding, knowing I would resolve it. My Phil do disagree with us on discipline. We don't hit my son, ever. They believe in physical discipline. They have made several comments on this, but my husband and I have stayed firm that it is not how we will be disciplining our children. My husband's siblings all agree, even his sister. They grew up with that, I did not. 5. My husband and I talk about everything. He is not keeping anything from me. He does not discuss our business with his parents or sister because, like I mentioned previously, he says they are very judgmental. Apparently dramatic as well, so when I say he's genuinely confused, it's true. It's more odd to me that people are less accepting that we have a great marriage and more willing to believe he's being dishonest or deceitful. Although, I do get why some people would rather believe that. I have been hurt before, too. So I understand how it may be hard to trust they're good people. 6. Is his sister jealous? I really believe she is. But not because we have a better life or more money. She has confided in me a few times with odd takes. She has jokingly mentioned many times that my husband ruined her Halloween when she was 10, having to spend it in her princess costume at hospital when her mom went into labor. She has also told me that her parents always take my husband's side for everything. She doesn't like any of his mates or his career choice. She is very posh to say the least. Another odd thing, every birthday party she's had for her son is a big dramatic deal. She requests multiple people, including my husband, to come in costume for the themed party. The odd part, though, is her speech before the blowing out of the candles. It's the same one every year. She tells a story with tears of how she never had any mates growing up and how no one ever came to her birthday parties and how much it means to her for all her mates and son's schoolmates to be there. 7. Meeting with my Bill. I'm still considering my options on this. Part of me is very curious on what excuse my SIL could possibly have to blame my husband for her actions and what she could have told her husband to convince him. But part of me thinks he's confused too, and just wants clarification himself due to one specific thing he said in his text. I am also happy to meet or talk you first privately to just feel the situation out. BC, of course, maybe I am wrong. I copied that statement directly from his text. In the very rare conversations I've had with my SIL's husband, he seems pretty aware that she is dramatic. He is typically level-headed, and on one conversation he admitted to me that he prejudged me and was wrong. He apologized. In the same conversation he told my husband he still saw him as a kid and had worried about what type of father he would be, but is impressed with how he has surpassed his expectations and is a great da. My husband was a wee bit offended, but I told him some people compliment differently. Anyway, he seems more like me a bit in the way that he tries to stay away from drama, but wants to be a peacekeeper. I've considered meeting with him and voice recording the conversation so I could discuss it with my husband without missing anything or repeating it wrong or in a biased way. Also, maybe I'm wrong about him and he will say things to me he wouldn't say in front of my husband or will deny saying. Another part of me just keeps feeling like I will be walking into a guilt trip situation or something like that. Is this really worth being stressed out even more? Will it change anything? Will it help me be less stressed? It feels like a gamble that I'm uneasy to risk my sanity over. He reached out on August 7th and today is the 22nd and I've not yet given him an answer outside of saying I have to consider it. 8. Something else that gives more insight into my SIL's character. My son turned 2 in June. We were in the middle of moving and decided to have a birthday dinner at a restaurant we love nearby instead of a party due to most everything being in boxes. My SIL, Phil Mill, had just recently returned from a month-long holiday in Colombia. My SIL's 40th birthday was in May, but she decided she wanted to celebrate the following month in Colombia. We wasn't notified until it was too late to make arrangements to attend, and my husband took that as her not really wanting us there. Especially since it was her husband that slipped up telling us, not her or their parents. Either way, they returned the week of my son's birthday. When I reached out to her to let her know the time, day and place. One day before, she asked me if we could choose a different restaurant since it was Colombian, and she said she was Colombian fooded out. I thought that was selfish since it was our son's birthday, and we'd never consider asking this of her. However, trying to keep peace, I asked for suggestions. It got war, say. She then asked if we could choose a place closer to where they all live, an hour away. She recommended a place where the seating would not accommodate everyone at one table. I kept trying to work with her until I finally just had enough of all the changes to convenience her for our son's birthday and, as nice as I could manage, told her that it was all becoming too hectic and I think we are just going to keep our original plans. She seemed annoyed, but came. She didn't bring her husband or son. My husband agreed that she was selfish with her requests and he believed she went to me instead of him because he would have not entertained the idea for a second. He told me for the millionth time that she always wants everything to be her way and to be the center of attention. I have never had anyone or heard of anyone doing anything like this before. I guess I just didn't know how to handle it. 9. I hope I answered all the questions. I'm not trying to ignore or dodge any, but I didn't think I would get more than a few responses of advice, so I was not prepared. I also wasn't trying to leave out any details, but I thought I had typed so much already that people would be frustrated if I typed more, and some things I didn't think were important or relevant that it seems are. Like paragraphs. My apologies. Several people have asked for updates. I don't know if Reddit automatically notifies people when I've updated or edited this, or if I have to do it manually. I'm not too familiar with how Reddit operates. A close mate of mine suggested I put my story out here to get unbiased opinions, so that's why I'm here.